Well, that was more successful than I thought. Okay, so people like the PlaySafe commentary from several months back. A lot. So,
I'll do it again.
but what will I be talking about this time? I already established the film's plot and my opinion on it. What else is there to say? Well, the title of this video exists, so you know what we're going into today. So, let's do it. Again. While researching for my previous Play Safe video, I found out that apparently the background scene of this shot of the train yard was not animated, but was in fact made with live-action models. Apparently the creators of Play Safe, that being Fleischer Studios, had also done this technique when working on Popeye and Betty Boop. When making my previous Play Safe commentary, I overlooked this little detail, but I decided to look back on it now as it could lead into an interesting mystery. So I did some digging on the web and found out that part of Play Safe was indeed filmed in live action, thanks to a type of camera back in the day that gave the scene a more 3D effect. However, it's hard to tell how much of it is live action. Is it the entire scene except for the kid himself? Or is it just the background trains? Another arising question is, where and how did they get the models? At first I thought the studio crew just bought some model trains from a company, but it might not be that simple. Especially because what model train company would make models that look like these? Also, during the 1930s, most model train companies were making standard gauge trains, which didn't really look like the models used in Play Safe. And while Lionel did make an O-scale Hudson model which is similar to some of the models used, those didn't come out until 1937, a year after Play Safe was made. So, it's most likely that the studio just scratch-built their own models, sort of like how the Thomas models of the 80s were also built by the studio. This is also possible because Play Safe was made during the Great Depression, so the budget for making this was likely more slim than it originally would be. And these models wouldn't operate since they would just be used as a backdrop effect. Well, except for this model later on, which does look to be a live-action model train. That's another noticeable thing. The train switched from being animated to being live-action. An example being this scene, where the engine looks to be live-action, and then in the scene right after, it's back to being animated. Yet another thing that's kind of sus is that if there were actual models used in the set, were those models ever recovered, or did they at least have any surviving coverage other than appearing in Play Safe? Did the studio crew just throw the models away when they finished recording? Were they sold to a private collection and never turned up again? It's unknown where these models are nowadays, as well as no behind-the-scenes photos or videos existing for the making of Play Safe. Though that might be partially because of the fact that it was the 1930s, and documenting things wasn't as important back then, especially to document some kids' cartoon, like who would do that? And even if things were documented, they may be lost or damaged between then and now. There are so many possibilities about how these mysteries may or may not have happened. But that's not to say all of the Play Safe footage was lost. As of December 2020, there is currently an eBay listing for behind-the-scenes drawings of the dog in Play Safe, whose name is apparently Rover. According to the sellers, stuff like this is extremely rare, and understandably so. But because it's rare, it also drives a hefty price tag, that price being $420. No, that's not a joke, that is legit the price for those drawings. So, unless you're an absolute die-hard Play Safe fan, it's unlikely those drawings will ever be sold. But this also begs the question about how, could any more lost media for Play Safe spring up? Well, I want to say that's very unlikely, if lost media from both The Missing Coach and the 1974 Thomas & Friends pilot could both be found, then there might be a glimmer of hope for Play Safe as well, albeit a small one.
Alright, gentlemen, I want you to repeat after me, just how I do it. Ready?
Like how Wilbert Audrey was inspired by real-life train events, Fleischer Studios was also possibly inspired by real-life trains in the United States during the 1930s when building their models for the sets. For example, this red engine near the climax of the film bears resemblance to the LMS Streamline Princess Coronation class engines over in Britain. And this cursed thing right here is looking like the streamlined Southern Railway PS4. And it's clear as day, you cannot tell me otherwise, that this engine is based on the Blue Comet passenger train.
May I present to you, Mr.
Inspiration has also come up because of PlaySafe, as one person decided to make a custom O-scale model of the main Blue engine in the film, who is apparently called Montana. PlaySafe has also caused fan stories and videos, the video you're watching right now being one of them. Say hi to history, people. Anyway, the backstory behind almost every piece of media can be much deeper than what it seems like at first glance. And who would have thought that a 1930s cartoon that gave us so much nightmare fuel would have so much mystery behind it? Thanks for watching. You know what? At least PlaySafe was actually a good kids cartoon. Yeah, not like the complete bull they have in kids stuff nowadays. PlaySafe is cold compared to that mother.